Bubsy, 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 Bobcat!
Man, it's been a while since I came up with a good video idea. I think it's time to steal off someone else. Good thing my phone content's not too hard to copy from. What the fuck is this? Fairly rated Sonic games by Large Frozen Rainer? What? Who? Does this guy think it's just okay to steal from me? Well, I'll give him this. He's not a cat. He's a dog. But it's still the same thing I do. What the freak, dude? Let me set the scene. It's 1993 and you just got done playing Sonic 1 through Marble Zone and Sonic 2 through Chemical Plant. Man, there's no other Sonic outings that I could play. Sonic 3 doesn't release till next year, and Sonic CD's on something I'm just not gonna fucking buy. It's a Sega fucking CD. Do you think I want to add to the 2.24 million people who got disappointed? Hell no. So you go to GameStop because that was a thing in 1993 and you see it. A bobcat with a white shirt that exclaimed because it was an exclamation mark. Bubsy. You take it home and open it up only to realize you're really stupid and can't read. You bought the SNES cartridge. Bubsy was created by Michael Berlin and Accolade. Accolade wanted something to rival the likes of Mario and Sonic, and Michael Berlin just thought the name was funny or something, I don't know. Bubsy is infamous in the video game critics scene for being, mediocre, I guess. Most early reviewers bashed the dude for piss-poor games, and especially Bubsy 3D, which created the common consensus that all Bubsy games are bad. But is it true that all Bubsy games are bad? Well, one way to find out. By playing Russian roulette.
Well, it worked for Clint.
Released in 1993, Bubsy and Claws Encounters of the Third Kind is the debut studio album by American rapper Kanye West. A bobcat with a white shirt and an exclamation mark. Doesn't get more 90s than this. I don't know what the fuck you want me to say.
What could possibly go wrong?
Your parent company goes, oh. So you know how most of us can agree Sonic 1 is aged? Bubsy aged like he spent the rest of his life as a retail manager, is now in a midlife crisis in his 30s. It's like those Flash games where Sonic goes to the Mushroom Kingdom and you have this piss poor controlling Sonic in the first Mario game. The background doesn't move up with Bubsy and it gives me the ick. The controls are extremely slippery. Bubsy feels like he's always on ice, but his body weight weighs down the ice and he can barely walk on ice, but he still slips around. The camera pulls back in order for you to see ahead of you and resets once you stop moving. This does not accommodate the game because Bubsy's so fast the camera pulls as soon as it gets the chance, and once you stop moving it just goes back. Which, since the level design's so platform heavy, the camera just jerks around like the cameraman clocked in after having 5 fireballs for breakfast. They only did this because everything's so fucking massive you can't see for shit unless the camera pulls forward. Bubsy also dies after one hit, which is not annoying at all. It's really easy to avoid enemies, don't get me wrong, but one wrong move and you're truly fucked. You can't take advantage of Bubsy's speed at all without the risk of some dickhead popping his head out off screen. The music's great though, the levels all have catchy tunes that got stuck in my head after playing. However, the PC and Genesis version have the worst renditions of the soundtrack. They just pale in comparison to the SNES versions. Was there anything else good about it? I mean, controls aside, the game's not bad. Levels aren't built like they're on one of their 4 support beams. They're well designed and they'd probably be better if Bubsy was a better controlling character. Like in a sequel. Would I recommend anyone play Bubsy? I mean, if you want to kill yourself, be my fucking guess. Bubsy's a party trick, but the party's full of sweaty nerds. You only ever play this to say, guys, look, I'm playing fucking Bubsy. I would say no one willingly plays Bubsy, then Michael Bubsy Nerd's gonna comment, I love Bubsy, I play Bubsy every day. I didn't even mention Bubsy's glide move. Imagine going to the zoo and there's just an exhibit of flying bobcats. I don't know, I feel like I'm being tough on the little guy. For what I played, I didn't hate the game. Controls aside, I think a lot of love and passion went into the first game, which isn't something I can say about the other games. So Bubsy and Claws Encounters of the Third Kind gets the you're something sticker. What do you have to say about that, Bubster?
I like it! Pilot's license? What for?
Bubsy 2 started development as soon as the first game gave Mr. Krabs his first penny. When asked to return to Bubsy, Michael Berlin said, nah fam, just give it to the Bubsy hate force. That didn't happen, but with how much the developers of Bubsy 2 reportedly hated Bubsy, I would honestly believe it. Like, I mean, those devs fucking hated Bubsy. Dude, the developer room had Bubsy plushes hanging from the ceiling. They fucking Salem witched his ass. Bubsy 2 is also the only Bubsy game to not have a subtitle. Wow, they fucking hated this guy.
Bubsy, 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 Bobcat!
Wow, Big Sleeter, I'm sick of cat puns. Keep complaining, I'll punch you in the fucking ground. Those aren't the same words, Big Sleeter. Stop talking to yourself. Bubsy 2 is marginally better than Bubsy 1 in a lot of ways. First off, Bubsy's a lot tighter to control and has a lot less weight and ice on his feet. Granted, sometimes Bubsy feels way too light for his own good, but it's marginally better in 98% of the time. Bubsy also takes more than one hit now, one of the best fixes I think the series has ever made. The art direction in this game is pretty damn cool too. I have gripes about it that I'll save for later, but I will admit this game is very pretty, and I genuinely think it's really funny that people who hate Bubsy would put in this much effort to make a graphically stellar game. Bubsy 2 is is marginally worse than Bubsy 1 in a lot of ways. I don't think I've been more fucking confused in my life playing a video game. The level themes feel like the devs were 6-year-olds after they were given an asset library and told to go fucking nuts. The game's levels are supposed to be part of history that a corrupt pig stole or something. Where the fuck does the music part fit? Oh yeah, I forgot about in ancient Germany, they built their streets on trombones. You know, maybe this game's historically accurate because I would totally see a German from ancient times do that. But also, Germany is a fictional place, so I don't know. There's 5 level themes that vary based on which wing you are. No fucking way they did the Forces cheap out before the Forces cheap out. That's fucking crazy. So basically, you play Spaceland and East Wing, and then when you go to the West Wing, you play it again. But as a different, like, background or some shit. Dude, this pig fucking sucks at his job. Like, no way dude couldn't think of more than 5 historical pieces to steal. Like, throw in Salem, Massachusetts and have them execute Bubsy for being a witch. Just like in real life. The levels themselves are just a load of what the fuck. The levels are a lot more linear, but they're also way more of a clusterfuck. Come on, pick a fucking battle. Also, I hope this composer got fired. Did dude make it at 11 p.m. on a school night or some shit? Like, goddamn does it fucking reek. Like a damn child made a band out of recyclables in his house. Overall, Bubsy 2 is like a step in the right direction on a treadmill going backwards. I think while fixing some of the biggest issues with the first game, they just forgot to give a shit when it came to making a coherent game. Honestly, God, it feels like the aftermath of taking quadruple your prescription medication, and as good as that might sound, it's fucking insane. I played a good chunk of this game, and I didn't understand a single thing going on, and I'm probably gonna keep it that way for a while. Bubsy 2's the shrooms of platformers. There's a peanut butter and jellyfish.
Ah, a pyramid scheme.
Bubsy in Fractured Furry Tales is what I believe to be the black sheep of the Bubsy series. No one in their right mind seems to bring this one up when the topic of Bubsy is presented. It's always how Bubsy 1 and 2 are mediocre Sonic clones and how Bubsy 3D just killed my grandma. This one just kinda happened. It was released 2 months after Bubsy 2 being developed by a Magitech design with little to no involvement from Accolade themselves. It was released exclusively on the Atari Jaguar. I see why no one talks about this. The game has Bubsy traversing different locations based on various fairy tales. I think I missed something in Bubsy 2. Truth be told, this is probably the worst game in this video because at least Bubsy 3D has something to talk about. It's bad. Fractured Furry Tales is modeled after Bubsy 1. The controls are back to Bubsy being on ice that's penetrating the terrain and one-hit deaths that were not annoying a year ago. But they fixed one thing, and you may be asking, what could they possibly have fixed? They fixed the fucking camera! The camera went to rehab and clocked in a new man! Remember in Bubsy 1 and 2 when the camera would just immediately offset when you're running and then you kind of just go back when you're done? Yeah, I remember that. I fucking hated it. But look, no fear. Fractured Furry Tales is the camera slowly offset when running and slowly return when you stop, making your Adderall last way longer. However, keep that Adderall in sight because god, this game's frustrating as all fuck. Bubsy 1 and 2 are like a quiz in a class you like where it's not hard but it's kind of lame, you have a test. Fractured Furry Tales is like having a quiz in AP Physics. The levels are built more like Bubsy 1 with long stretches to land alongside the Mario-ass platforming and enemy placement. The art design's probably the worst out of the 3 side-scrolling Bubsy games before 3D. 1 feels like a coherent game, Bubsy 2 looks nice I guess, but Fractured Furry Tales feels like the 2D version of this is what Sega should do with Sonic. The world just doesn't feel like a coherent world. Bubsy 2 at least looks like cool I guess. Fractured Furry Tales feels like they were making a generic platforming and at the last second they got the Bubsy rights. So they just added them. The game just also has a lot less polish than the other two. Death animations seem to cut midway, and the hit detection leads to the most obnoxious deaths I've ever faced in the series. This game feels like a ROM hack of the first game, but the ROM hacker just broke the code randomly and couldn't figure out what he did. It's what most people describe the first 2 games, and I think I'm gonna leave that as my consensus. Bubsy and Fractured Furry Tales is a sad imitation of a mediocre game. I get the devs hated Bubsy, and it definitely shows with the final product, but Bubsy 2's devs really hated the dude as well, and they still ended up making a not half bad game. Can you believe this game sold horribly?
Oh, you wanna be a video game star?
So Accolade calls up Michael Berlin after the commercial fails of Bubsy 2 and fucking Furballs and asks if Mike can come back for a new Bubsy game. Berlin says on the condition that if the game is 3D, he's totally in. This is also before anything remotely 3D was ever released besides fucking Star Fox or F-Zero or Mario Kart. So Berlin forms a team to create a 3D Bubsy game. Then the pinnacle of 3D platformers blows the gaming industry out of the water and changes video games as we know it forever, which left Bubsy 3D to be immediately outdated. Berlin wanted to restart the project to be on par with Mario 64, but Accolade told Berlin to fuck off and released Bubsy 3D on November 25th, 1996. Back in 96, a lot of people were a lot nicer to Bubsy 3D, just calling it inferior to Mario 64 in every single possible way. But those retrospective reviews, did Bubsy kill your fucking family? Holy shit. Bubsy 3D is lauded as one of the worst 3D platformers of all time. Hell, people consider it the worst video game of all time. But is Bubsy 3D that bad? Yes, very fucking much. This game's horrible. Okay, I'll give him the credit it deserves. 3D gaming was a completely new territory when this game started development. The tanky controls that are abhorrent are common in a lot of early 3D platformers. Dude, the PS1 controller didn't have analog sticks till the DualShock, so a lot of the time they were working with the D-pad. Or whatever the fuck this is. However, most tank-controlled games tend to hide the fact that their controls were tanky. Bubsy and Bubsy 3D controls like an actual fucking tank. There's no but, or I'll give them this. These controls are just fucking awful. Bubsy just moves forward. To turn, you have to stop dead in your tracks and turn left to right or whatever way you're going. Backing up just has Bubsy awkwardly jump. Jumping up pans the camera above Bubsy for an overhead view, which was done to make the platforming easier, but it just has zero effect whatsoever and just makes the game disoriented. But that's the controls. How's the game itself? You know those really shitty and easy obbies on Roblox? That's the entire game. You control Bubsy the tank as he traverses an obby on Roblox to gather 3 pieces of a rocket ship as he lands on planet Rayon, which is the place the Woolies live, by the way. The guys from the first game, to get home and to stop those dastardly douchebags. The whole world is completely untextured and it looks like a public alpha build. But now this is the final fucking thing. You could say, well, that's just how the world is. It's artistic direction. And to that I say, shut the fuck up. No, it's not. I'm gonna go with the theory that Accolade had zero idea how to texture 3D models, or the software they used had no way of texturing, so they made everything with base colors, which worked for Bubsy just fine, but it doesn't work for the actual world. Just makes it look unfinished. I say that, and then I remember that Bubsy's face is textured. How'd I forget about that? That's probably because I didn't care. When Bubsy dies, a really fucking funny animation plays. You've definitely seen the glass breaking one somewhere. Don't you fucking lie. Overall, Bubsy 3D is a bad game. I know, it shocked me too. Granted, I can look past most of it because it's an early 3D game developed before anything 3D was made. It just finished too late in order for it to sustain itself to actual competition in the 3D mascot platformer race. Bubsy died after this game and later did Accolade in 1999, only staying truly alive with constant remarks about how bad the Bubsy games really are.
Is the writer's strike over yet?
This game's a fraud. Sorry, I had to start the game's discussion with that, but this game's a fucking fraud. When this game was announced in 2017, the internet went into fucking shambles over the idea of this dude coming back. This game had no chance out of the gate, and it was immediately slammed with negative reviews across the board. Does it deserve it? Well, here's a question. If this was not a Bubsy game, and just a generic platformer, would you give this a 4 out of 10? I would. The Woolies Strike Back is the grand return of Bubsy, and I think it's a blunder. I have no idea where to start, so I'll start where I think I can start. Bubsy is no longer a fast character. Something 3D got rid of as well, but come on, if Sonic couldn't translate properly and almost kill its development team, then it's probably best we don't do that here. Bubsy's not painfully slow, I'll give him that. It feels great to control in all honesty. It's probably the best he's ever controlled actually. But instead of Sonic and Mario World, we just have Mario Brothers, the video game. Cat 3D. Literally get rid of Bubsy and it could be released as Tangbrain and the motherfuckers from Planet Guantanamo and nothing would change. The game also lacks in the visual department. It's the first 2.5 Bubsy game, and I think if they ever decide to bring Bubsy back, don't do this. Also added is the new Pounce attack, which is like a projectile in a shovelware NES game where it can never hit the fucking enemy. Bubsy the Woolies Strike Back's a nothing video game. It's not bad one bit, it's just painfully boring and generic. Once again, replace Bubsy with any other mascot and you would never be able to tell the difference. If I had to describe this game in one word, commonplace.
Even I'm impressed.
The final pit stop in a world of Bubsy fuck ass is the most recent game, Paws on Fire. I remember when this shit released back in 2019. I originally thought it was just the Woolies Strike Back 2, only to find out a few months ago that it's just a fucking auto runner. I'm not kidding. The Bit Trip guys made a Bubsy auto runner. I have barely anything to say about this game. I think the art style is some of the series' worst with this ugly Bubsy that's wearing fucking shoes now. I personally think they just need to redesign Bubsy. Shorten the neck, be rid of the shoes, make him look less ugly. Actually, not gonna lie, he looks fine in artwork in Bubsy the Woolies Strike Back. I think, honestly, just like kind of tweak that design a little bit and you're good. That's all I gotta say about this game. It's just kind of a thing that happened. And that's sadly where our journey ends with Bubsy. And thus begins the new journey of who the hell is Large Frozen Rainer? It was just some random ass kid who really took a liking to me. I DMCA'd his ass.